In case you don't know me, my name is Elliott Connie, and I am a licensed psychotherapist, meaning I have a license to practice the art of therapy. And that's a relevant thing for the topic I'm going to be covering here in this video because something has been happening in our field multiple times. And I think it's an issue, and I think it needs to be addressed. So, thus, I'm going to make this video. Now, I have written books. I've spent the last 20 years traveling the world, teaching people how to practice solution-focused brief therapy. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to let you know I'm a credible source to be sharing the information I'm going to be sharing today. And every now and then, people will contact me via my social media in really harmful and disrespectful ways. And I think it like highlights a trend in our field. I think it highlights a psychological disturbance in our field, and I think it needs to be covered. So I recently had an interaction with somebody in my Instagram DMs, and I want to share that interaction with you here because I think there's a really important lesson. In fact, I think there are several important lessons that can be shown here. And you can see I got a DM from a woman named Christian. Now, to be 100% transparent, I do not know this person whatsoever. They just sent me this message. Hello, I've come across your page and was curious with your content you share. I wanted to know if you had a licensures, typo there, in mental health related entities. Now, whenever I get a message like that, it's always somebody questioning my credentials. And to be honest with you, I don't know why they would do it. I make it very clear. If you watch my content, I refer to myself as a licensed psychotherapist very, very frequently. So there's the answer to her question. But also, if you simply did a Google search, you would find evidence of my credentials and my expertise in this field. But Christian obviously did not do that. And also, in full transparency, when I got this message, I clicked on her profile page and it took me to her Instagram page, which I am now blocked from, which we're going to get to that in a minute. And it said that she graduated from Stephen F. Austin, which is a university here in Texas, in June of 2023, so less than a year ago. Now that's relevant, so let me talk about it. So here she is. I'll read it again. Elliott, I've come across your page and was curious with your content you share. I wanted to know if you had and licensures in mental health related entities. These are really, really triggering messages to me. I'm going to tell you why. I'm not sure why Christian or anybody else views themselves as like the police of our field, and they need to make sure that everybody in our field is credentialed and licensed. In fact, it makes me think of the Ahmaud Arbery situation that happened. If you are not a police officer and you're not a regulator, like, why do you think it is your job to police the behavior of other people? Now, it just so happens I actually am a licensed professional, but I'm not sure why this person thinks it's their job to check my credibility. And then I say very plainly, yes, I do have a license. She says, what are your credentials? At this point, I'm really curious. Why do you ask? I'm just curious because I don't often see many clinicians utilizing the SFBT modality in private practices. It's more often utilized in schools and with school counselors. So here's where I start. Like, that's actually not true. Solution-focused brief therapy is probably the most common used mental health approach in all of psychotherapy. Somebody did a research study where they went through public profiles of psychotherapists in private practice marketing themselves, and 70% of them listed SFBT as one of the modalities that they used. And I, being very respectful, I said, I see. It's actually one of the most popular approaches used in private practice, actually. Interesting, because CBT is one of the most highly researched modalities used in any setting. Now, I happen to be part of some research projects. I work with a guy named Dr. Adam Thrower, who's done research projects where we have found that's actually not true. Now, I'm going to go into the weeds here a little bit, but CBT is a well-researched approach, but so too are many others, just like solution-focused brief therapy. For about 20 years, there was this idea that CBT was the best, and like research says it was the best. Turns out that's actually not true. There's been some research in the last decade that has kind of highlighted that that's not true, but she clearly believes that CBT is the most research modality in any setting. I said that's absolutely false. And she says, and most often therapists have their credentials listed in their bio. So here she is again, attacking my credentials. For instance, I have my LPCA and am nationally recognized in the counseling profession. And then she replies to me saying this absolutely false. Every master's degree program will contest to this. There's data and research to back it up. That's actually not true, but there's not a one size fits all modality. Either you're providing also information claiming to be a therapist. That's what I'm getting at. False. Now, at this point, I'm kind of frustrated. I said, ma'am, I'm not sure you know who I am, but I have been a leading psychotherapist in this field for nearly 20 years. I teach, conduct research, and consult for master's and doctoral programs around the world. It's completely inaccurate for you to say every master's program will contest to this. It's clear you think otherwise and have your mind made up. There's an icon in the way here, and have your mind made up, which is fine. I wish you luck in this field and in your work. Congrats on your recent graduation. Then what are your credentials? I'd love to learn more from you and do my research on your history in the field. Again, like, why do you think it's your job to have me prove to you who I am? I have no responsibility whatsoever to prove to this individual that I have a license or I am who I say I am. This is her using her privilege and trying to oppress me. This is her pushing a narrative based on weird assumptions that I don't understand. But I have no obligation whatsoever to prove this person anything. This happens frequently enough in my inbox that I really feel like I need to address it by showing people this is what it looks like. And here I say, I'm not claiming to be a psychotherapist. I am a psychotherapist. I don't list it on my IG because this is my public page that's not just about my clinical work. I work on TV projects, podcasts, books, and other things these days. If you actually were interested, a simple Google search would satisfy your curiosity and remove your desire to accuse me of falsely representing myself. It's actually super offensive, because I really was offended. It's actually super offensive for someone who hasn't been in this field for even a year to question me in this way. LMAO, I don't know if you guys know, but that means laughing my ass off. You're a psychotherapist, but not a therapist. That's exactly how I know you don't know what you're talking about. And you're offended because you assume I've been in the field for less than a year. I assume that because I can see when she graduated and she referred to herself as an LPCA. The A stands for associate, which means she's been in this field for less than 18 months, because that's the license you get when you first get into this field. So I know she's only been in this field for a short amount of time for those reasons. You don't know how long I've been in this field at all. Well, I just explained how I know. You don't have credentials. Stop this fake therapist shit. And at this point, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why are you doing this? You won't say it's obvious you don't have any. Now, I think a lot of times some people confuse not needing, like, I don't feel the desire to have to prove anything to you, to can't. And oftentimes it's people who have privilege that they're not acknowledging, who think, well, because this person is not answering my questions, thus they can't. But that's not true. I can absolutely answer your question, which I am doing thoroughly. I just don't feel like I should have to. I don't feel like I have the need to do that. I know who I am in this field, and I don't have any desire to prove to you or anybody else. So at this point, I just want to make this crazy person go away. So I took a picture of the front of my book and the back of my book that lists my bio and clearly describes what my credentials are. Apparently, me saying who I was wasn't enough, so I sent her this image. And then I said, feel better? This is my 5th book, and clearly there's my credentials. Satisfied? Well, that's all I was asking, exclamation point. I genuinely was curious, and you took me and my curiosity to have contact, which may be true, right? Which may be true. At that point, I would have easily responded by saying, no problem. Sorry I took it out of context. Happy to move on with my life. I don't know you. You don't know me. I don't need to be connected to you. Happy to move on. And then she says, psychotherapists and therapists provide the same services, by the way. Which, by the way, I'm very aware of that. And I said, I'm not under any obligation to prove myself to you or anyone else. And the way you addressed me was extremely disrespectful. I am very aware that psychotherapists and therapists are interchangeable terms. I choose to use the term psychotherapist because other fields use the term therapist, so it gets confusing for clients and others. For example, A chiropractor can be sometimes referred to as a therapist. A physical therapist can sometimes be referred to as a therapist. The word therapist does not necessarily mean mental health, so I choose to use the term psychotherapist. And she said, "You made accusations when I was presenting my findings." I don't remember making any accusations. I literally just read everybody here the entire interaction, and I don't remember her presenting any findings. I have no idea what she was saying uh, when she says that. It's completely nuts to me. You made accusations when I was presenting my findings. What findings? Like she didn't present any findings. There was nothing that she found. A simple Google search would have clearly showed her any answer to any question she had about me or why I was saying the things I was saying about my field. She would have totally understood the level of authority I have in this field. And I tell people this all the time, like, you don't have to agree with what I say, but you do have to recognize I'm a credible source to say it. So you may need to do some internal work on becoming triggered easily. I don't know what that's about either. You say you're not a therapist, but it's listed in your bio, LOL. And I didn't say that. I said I'm not representing myself as a therapist. I am a therapist, meaning I'm not pretending to be something. I am the something, is what I meant. And yes, CBT is one of, and now she's back to arguing with me. Like she clearly said here, right here. Well, that's all I was asking. I genuinely was curious, and you took me and my curiosity out of context. If that were true, none of this other craziness would have happened. And now she's going back to the CBT thing. And yes, CBT is one of the most widely used and highly researched and effective modalities. Look it up. I'm very aware of this. I've been in this field for 20 years. I've been addressing this forever. I actually know Dr. Don Meichenbaum, the guy who created CBT. I know what this is and what this isn't. And I wrote funny, thinking you have the right to challenge me, then making an accusation. I was thinking you had some work to do as well. I hope you do it. And I really mean that. I'm not saying she has, like she said, I have internal work to do, which usually implies you have to go get therapy. I'm not saying that about her, but I am saying you need more education and more information in this field. But earlier you said you're not a therapist, but it's listed in your bio. Then now you claim that the two are used interchangeably, which is true. The term psychotherapist can be used by family therapists, counselors, social workers, anybody who delivers mental health counseling services. And here she goes, with an LPC, you can't claim to be a psychotherapist either. That's 100% not true. Let me see. You need a PsyD or PhD to claim that title. Not true. You can absolutely refer to yourself as a psychotherapist with a master's degree and a license, which is exactly what I have. I said, that's not true. Where do you get your information? And she said it again. I said, that's not true. For real, what school did you go to? Specific credentials and training will allow for that title. You're a therapist, you have an LPC. But that is not true. The term psychotherapist can absolutely be used interchangeably with the term therapist for all of the reasons I've already said. And I tried to clarify. I didn't say I'm not a psychotherapist. I said I'm not claiming to be a therapist. I just am that. I said, ma'am, look it up. I said, I person, clearly a typo. I'm a person with a master's degree and a license any person with a master's degree and a license, including you, can claim to be a psychotherapist. I mean, this is just going crazy. And now I'm like, why are you insulting me? I don't understand any of this. I don't know you, and I don't have I have done nothing to you. Like I have not provoked this woman. I don't know her at all. And then I wrote, I'm sure you're a wonderful person and are a strong clinician, as you are clearly very passionate. I just wish you'd address me with more respect. I wish you well and nothing but the best. Some of your ideas about this field are inaccurate, and I'm sure in time you'll gain clarity. It's also clear you need healing from something or someone that's harmed you, and I genuinely hope you get it. Now, look, I get messages like this periodically, and I am really convinced for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't look like the traditional face of the field. Like I'm not an old white guy. I'm not. I don't wear a suit. Like I don't fit the mold. And for some reasons, people think that they can just come question my authority. I also believe people who just graduated think they know everything because they only have the narrow view that they got from the university and the university professors. And that's not real. That's not true. We need to be better in this field and being open-minded because you don't know everything, especially when you first get in this field. I graduated with my master's degree in 2006. That was a very long time ago. I published my first book in 2009. I took my first international trip in 2009 and have traveled around the world over 30 countries teaching things related to this field. Now, again, you don't have to agree with everything I say and everything I post, but I am a credible source with which to share my ideas. If you happen to not like them, it is not for you to challenge people's authority. Simply use Google if you have questions about who someone is, or contact them and communicate them respectfully. I am exactly who I say I am, and I earned that title through my education and my years of effort, and I will not allow anybody, including this woman, to disrespect that, dismiss that, or try to take that away from me. We have to be better in this field of being open, and I hope in this video I've done a really good job of expressing that.